When a cabinet secretary can't answer the simplest questions, that's not confusion, that's a cover-up. And today, Kristi Noem got exposed on the national stage.
Ms. McIver is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. A lot has been said, and I expect a lot more will be said about the department's interaction with members of this body when it comes to oversight. But this is not about me. Madam Secretary, it's not every day we have a cabinet member before this committee. As you know, the members of this committee have constitutional oversight responsibility for your department, and there are many things regarding this administration's Homeland Security policies that require our immediate attention. That is the work I am here to do today and every day. Secretary, this committee and the American people deserve answers for the actions of the Department of Homeland Security under this administration and the policies that have been put into place. The department has overseen a regime of cruelty, chaos, and deep disregard for human dignity, all under the pretense of security. The department is being mismanaged, and its policies undermine our nation's values. This does not make us safer, the exact opposite, exactly. Secretary, we need answers about your department's union busting at TSA, deporting U.S. citizens, terminating the legal status of international students for no apparent reason, and disregarding the rule of law. None of these issues at your department exist in a vacuum. In fact, they are all fundamentally connected to the administration's overarching cruelty. We want to hear from you because we are hoping you can make it make sense for us. Because with all due respect, we are all trying to understand why in the world this is taking place. In my district and around this nation, countless international students had their visas revoked without due process, without warning, and without any regard for how this would devastate their lives. These are students who came here to learn, to build their futures, and join our workforce, only to have the rug pulled out from under them by this department's actions. How can we expect international students to trust our institutions and contribute to our economy when we treat them like they've done something wrong just because they are here? Are we no longer the home of the American dream? I also want you to understand DHS's impact on our entire workforce. I proudly represent over 1,000 dedicated TSA workers who had the right to unionize. But that right has been stripped away by your department. This is an attack on the people who safeguard our skies and whose dedication we rely on now more than ever. And the destruction doesn't stop there. I represent communities that live in constant fear each and every day. Families too terrified to step outside and send their kids to school, go grocery shopping, or take a trip to the doctor because of the harassment of ICE and Homeland Security. This isn't public safety, it's state-sponsored fear. I understand that this administration believes that it is its business to scare people into submission and act alone with no regard for the law to decide who is worthy to live in this country or not. However, it is this committee's business to make sure your department is held accountable and to get the American people the answers they've been looking for. So, with that, Madam Secretary, I have a few yes or no questions. Do you agree that revoking student visas without notice can cause fear and confusion among international students? Yes or no?
Congressman, I do not.
Congresswoman, but yes or no?
Congresswoman, I do not decide legal status or visa programs for
I'll
students.
take that as a yes. Do you support restoring full collective bargaining rights for TSA employees? Yes or no?
Ma'am, currently today TSA does not have the
yes
ability
or no?
to unionize.
Okay, take that as a no. Do you believe that TSA workers should make a livable wage? Yes or no?
Yes, TSA workers are critically important.
Thank you for that. Are you aware that recent student visa revocations occur without due process or proper notification?
Ma'am, I don't make a determination of status.
Yes or
the
no?
Department of State does
I'm guessing
that.
You don't know? Okay. Do you believe that TSA workers have the right to better workplace conditions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
TSA
great. Thank you for
workers
that.
are incredibly
Do you
important
believe
to
that
our-
students should have an opportunity to appeal before their visas are revoked? Yes or no?
All processes are followed and that are set out as tools.
I'm guessing
and
it's a no. Okay,
processes
one
in
more
this
last question in
Congress.
9 seconds. Do you believe that that revoking collective bargaining rights for TSA workers affects their morale and job performance? Yes or no?
I believe TSA is critically important
Okay,
in
I'll
the
take
future
that
and
as
that they have
maybe
been.
you don't know, maybe it's yes or no.
Gentlelady's time has
That I-
expired. I now
that I
recognize
yield.
Mr. Gonzalez for 5 minutes of his.
What you just witnessed wasn't a routine oversight hearing. This was a full-on confrontation between a cabinet secretary and a lawmaker who came prepared not just with criticism, but with a moral indictment. LaMonica McIver didn't raise her voice. She didn't grandstand. She walked in with facts, lived realities from her district, and the clarity to say what many Americans have been feeling but rarely hear spelled out with this level of precision. That the Department of Homeland Security under Kristi Noem has been operating with cruelty, chaos, and a deep disregard for basic human dignity. And that framing matters, because for years, government agencies have been able to hide behind the language of security to justify almost anything. But McIver flips that logic on its head. She asks the simple but devastating question: when the policies themselves are sowing fear, confusion, and instability, when they're destabilizing students, workers, families, entire communities, how can anyone call that security? The truth is, it's not. It's political performance masquerading as law enforcement. Look at her examples. International students having their visas yanked without due process. These aren't criminals, these aren't threats. These are young people who crossed oceans to study here, to build careers here, to contribute to the American economy. DHS didn't just inconvenience them, DHS shattered their futures with no notice, no explanation, no appeal. That doesn't make America safer, it makes America smaller. Then she moves to TSA workers, people who literally stand between millions of travelers and potential harm every single day. These workers had fought for and won basic union rights, not perks, not luxuries, fundamental labor protections. But under Noem's watch, even that right was taken away. These are workers who get yelled at, threatened, assaulted, and underpaid. Yet DHS's priority wasn't to improve conditions, it was to strip them of the ability to organize. Again, not safety, just power. And then there are the communities living in fear because of ICE. Not fear of criminals, not fear of violence, fear of ICE itself. Families choosing between sending their kids to school and staying safe. Communities that shut themselves indoors because they fear being confronted, detained, or surveilled by their own government. That is not national security. That is state-sponsored intimidation. And McIver calls it what it is. The most powerful part of her questioning wasn't even the questions. It was the silence, the non-answers, the dodging. Because silence tells the truth. If the department believed these actions were justified, they would say so. Instead, Noem hid behind vague phrases, procedural ambiguity, and technicalities. And every time she tried to avoid accountability, McIver filled the silence with clarity. I'll take that as a yes. I'll take that as a no. You don't know. Those lines cut deeper than any raised voice could. This hearing exposes a simple fact. DHS under this administration is not operating as a protector of the American people. It is operating as a political weapon. Policies built not on safety, but on fear. Not on law, but on intimidation. Not on national security, but on ideological loyalty. And that's why oversight matters. When an agency becomes opaque, unaccountable, and comfortable avoiding basic questions, Congress becomes the last line of defense. McIver didn't walk into that room to score points. She walked in to make the government answer to the people again. If you value real oversight, if you value accountability, if you value leaders who aren't afraid to confront power directly to its face, do not look away from moments like this. The public deserves to understand what is happening behind closed doors, and Left Lens is here to break it down in full. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown like this. You deserve clarity, you deserve context, and you deserve the truth.